Well, it's been Scott Morrison, I should say, has revealed that he has referred the Bridget McKenzie sports rort scandal to the secretary of his department to see if she broke ministerial rules. But that disclosure came 5 days after it actually occurred. Joining us now to discuss that revelation is Sky News political editor Andrew Clennell. Andrew, I guess first and foremost, what does it mean for Bridget McKenzie's future that there is this inquiry?
She's in a bit of trouble, Tom, is my view, and it's not so much the original referral by Scott Morrison, and the fact that he released it 5 days late is disappointing, the fact that he'd done the referral. Frankly, Prime Ministers should be open about these things, in my opinion. It seems that he probably was going to reveal it in question time, and at that time when he ordered it, he probably thought he was going to be able to say she's been cleared. But what Ms McKenzie needs to be worried about here is the subsequent referral yesterday, which the Prime Minister revealed, of her grant to the Wangaratta Gun Club. This, I think, has changed potentially the PM's view of this scandal. And I'm going to show you something now, or we're going to show you something Monday, what he was saying. So bear in mind, he refers it to Phil Gaetjens, his former Chief of Staff, and his Secretary of Treasury, now his Secretary of Prime Minister and Cabinet, on Friday. He refers it to Gaetjens on Friday, and on Monday he's still standing by the Minister. Let's listen to that.
Well, I continue to support the Minister, but I also take very seriously the Auditor General's report that was handed down, and we're acting on the recommendations that has come forward, and particularly to move quickly with the Attorney General to clarify some of the legal issues that were raised in that report. But let me say this program was delivering funding to community organisations all around the country. Community organisations that have been raising money at their own barbecues for many, many years to get this support in place, and every single one of the projects that was approved was eligible.
So the Auditor General's report comes down Thursday. He refers it off Friday, doesn't tell us, does 5 interviews Monday, doesn't mention it, but says I'm getting the Attorney General to look at the legality of it. So I reckon at this point Scott Morrison's thinking she'll probably be cleared by the head of PM&C. So we don't need to tell everyone we've done that. But then yesterday is that development of the gun club referral, and that's why I think she's in a bit of strife, Tom.
The other possibility, I guess, is that, there would have actually eventually had to come out, I've done this referral, but perhaps the plan was to announce, I've referred it, and here's the result. Everything's fine, and that would have been just before perhaps sitting week. But that, I think that would have been a poor strategy anyway, Andrew. Everyone would have said, well, hang on, when was it referred? What happened there?
Yeah, it's kind of like trying to be clever, but you end up not being so clever. But, and the comparisons, I guess, to the situation of the Hawaii trip with not wanting to put out a statement on that. You're just better off coming clean and putting out the statement and saying what you're doing.
And not going through the normal processes, which are there and have been established for a reason. I spoke with Adam Bant earlier in the program. He's casting doubt on even this referral process and the review process itself, with the background of Phil Gaetjens.
This is about whether justice is going to be seen to be done, and as well as whether it's going to actually be done. I don't think as the head of a department it is arm's length. I think what we need is a federal ICAC, and that's not anything about him personally. I don't know about him personally, but when you've got issues like this where there's allegations that the Prime Minister's electorate has benefited perhaps unfairly, and same with the Attorney General's, then that's got to be investigated by a federal anti-corruption watchdog.
So perhaps a prelude as well to what, I'm not sure if what Labor will go to the same extent of the Greens as questioning Phil Gaetjens' role, but certainly federal ICAC getting a workout again. Tensions within the Nationals, though, Andrew, could boil up. Well, they are doing already. I haven't spoken with too many of the Nationals with a lot of sympathy for Bridget McKenzie. That might, you argue, always be the case, but how do you think this is all going to play out?
Well, this is very interesting, Tom, because let's just say, for the hypothetical, that Scott Morrison decides that Bridget McKenzie's done the wrong thing, she's been sloppy or incompetent or whatever else, and she has to go, and the report says that. Let's say, for example, she's breached ministerial declarations or whatever. What happens then? It's been put to me, if he acts unilaterally, there'll be all sorts of trouble, particularly for Michael McCormack. It'll be like, why didn't you stand up to the PM? She's a gnat. What would have to happen then for it to be a smooth transition and not too much trouble for the government is Bridget McKenzie would have to be convinced to resign. And people I've spoken to about Bridget McKenzie reckon she's not that kind of person. So that could lead to quite a pickle. If that were to happen and Bridget McKenzie was to go, it's my understanding that people in the Nationals would be after a pretty seamless sort of transition in the deputy leader role, and David Littleproud would be deputy leader. I guess I'm way ahead of where it is now, but I'm just saying it's not as simple as if it was a Liberal minister and you wanted to encourage them to resign or sack them. It's a lot more complicated than that. Now, bear in mind with the resignation thing, Tom, if you look at Susan Ley, who's now back in Cabinet, of course, when she went over travel expenses and when Bronwyn Bishop went over Choppergate, they both resigned. That kind of seems to be the way it's done. It's a lot easier than sacking. You just convince people to resign. So, you know, it's normally a politically quiet Australia Day weekend. I think we'll have a result one way or the other this weekend from the Gaetjens inquiry, so there'll be a bit to talk about in politics this weekend.
There you go, yeah. Possibly, I think you were alluding to earlier, maybe the old Friday afternoon or Saturday morning when things are pretty quiet and a few people are tuned into other things. You mentioned David Littleproud. I mean, even then, that gives us a prelude to what might get a bit nasty. His profile suffered a little bit of late, that's for sure, and a few within the Nats as well are starting to mutter about his performance. So nothing's going to be straightforward about this if those blocks start to fall.
Yeah, it's a bit of a dominoes effect, isn't it? So there's all these political considerations as well as the considerations of whether wrongdoings occurred or not.
Andrew Clennell, Political Editor, thank you.
Thank you.